Yo, what is going on, guys? It is boy Nick here. We're back again with a brand new video today. So this is now the 6th episode of my series in which I review every single Marvel Cinematic Universe Disney Plus show and special up to the release of Secret Invasion. Today we're going to be reviewing Moon Knight Season 1, which is the 6th show in Phase 4. Something that I keep forgetting to mention every time I do these Disney Plus series is that they're all part of a phase, and there's like a number of series with them. This is the 6th one in Phase 4. I keep forgetting to mention that. So Moon Knight's an interesting show to review because there's a whole lot to say about the show, but I'm going to try my best not to give away a whole lot of stuff because I don't want to spoil the show. There's even things where I'm like, I'm not even going to hint at this because I feel like if I say it, I'm going to ruin the show for people who haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen Moon Knight, I highly recommend checking it out. But let me give you some spoiler-free reasons why I think Moon Knight's a great show. So right off the bat, Oscar Isaac is awesome as Moon Knight. I think he does an awesome job in the show. I think he's honestly awards-worthy for his performance. And the thing that I like about Oscar Isaac's performance is that there's several layers and so much depth to this character, and Oscar Isaac plays every single one of those aspects about the character incredibly well. I think he really does steal the show in this TV series, and I think that it's kind of interesting to have an actor like this in a Marvel show, because yes, I know Oscar Isaac has done some blockbuster stuff before, but to kind of see him in an MCU thing is kind of interesting because typically the MCU doesn't do overly serious stuff, and so to see him kind of do this in this kind of show is interesting. But he does an awesome job, and I can't wait to see what else he does with Marvel. He also did Apocalypse, X-Men Apocalypse, which is an alright movie. It's a decent movie, but it's kind of my least favorite X-Men movie. And he also is going to be voicing one of the new Spider-Men in Spider-Man Across Spider-Verse, which that's going to be really interesting. I know, he's really awesome in the show, though, and I can't wait to see what else Oscar Isaac does with Marvel. I also think that May Calamawy, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, does a great job as playing Layla. I wrote down that she's a lot of fun as a supporting character, and I love the dynamic between her and Oscar Isaac. And if you've seen the show, you know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to their dynamic. They're in this very odd kind of gray area, I feel like, with their characters, but I think she does a really good job with it, and I think that she and Oscar Isaac, I buy their, like, on-screen chemistry, but they're on screen just like pairing. I really buy it. I think that they work very well together on camera. Ethan Hawke makes for an awesome and menacing villain in Arthur Harrow. I'm not going to go too deep into this villain because I feel like there's a whole lot to be explored that I feel like is best going into the show not known. But yeah, the performance is awesome. I think that the look for him is really cool. I think Ethan Hawke just does a great job at being this weird, menacing kind of villain. Also, F. Murray Abraham does an excellent job voice acting Khonshu, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that. He's one of the Egyptian gods in the show, but yeah, F. Murray Abraham's an awesome actor. He does great voice acting as the character. It's kind of interesting for me to see the guy who played Salieri in Amadeus do voice acting for this thing, but yeah, F. Murray Abraham's got a cool voice. I think his voice acting for this character is really cool, and yeah, F. Murray Abraham does an awesome job. So one of the standout things about the show is it has a really trippy story that's really interesting, and the thing I like about the story is that the world building really captures the weirdness of this story. They go in like directions in the show the MCU has never gone in before, and they actually directed the entire story and sequences incredibly well, actually. They took some real risks with Moon Knight, even though it is still a TV-14 show, but I actually like the fact that the MCU took some risks with this show, and they did a good job of bringing in this original story with a really great concept, and like actually exploring it. Like it almost didn't feel like an MCU show at times. At times it just felt like a drama that had like an MCU spin on it to a certain degree, but I think that the originality and the concept of the story and the way that it's all explored is very well done. The show has some great CGI as well as visual effects. It's a very pretty looking show. I really like not so much in terms of like its vibrancy. There are some vibrant moments though, but the CGI and some of like the lands in which they shoot, some of just the shots and just like the effects for the different things going on. It's a very pretty looking show. I think that the special effects team did a great job. There's some nice CGI in there. And for a show as trippy as Moon Knight, I really do like it. One of my favorite visuals, I really do love the costume for Moon Knight or Mr. Knight, because there's like the two different kinds of costumes. I think it looks awesome. I think the costume designers did a great job at making it look that way. And there's times where I know it's CGI, there's other times where I'm pretty sure it's practical. But honestly, like, they're so well done that sometimes I can't even tell which one is CGI and which one's practical. But I think that the visuals for the costume are awesome. It's beautiful. It's visually appealing. And it's kind of hard to do that, especially considering that Moon Knight is, for the most part, one color. White. But, like, they make his suit look awesome. As I mentioned, this is a very original show for the MCU, and the darker tone than the average MCU project is kind of what drives the intrigue of this show. And, like, I dig it. I actually like the fact that they kind of go in a different route than they've gone before, and I really do. I think that's a nice change of pace for the MCU. It's a nice breath of fresh air. And I kind of hope they do more darker stuff like this in the future with the MCU. They did Multiverse of Madness right after the show came out, and I kind of feel like this, in a sense, kind of like prepared people for that kind of dark tone. Yeah, so I kind of think it would be cool if Marvel did this more often. If they did slightly more dark tones with their shows. I think that it really paid off for this show. There's also some great twists in the show and some great reveals that I won't spoil at all that make the story so much more interesting than when you first watch the first few episodes. Of course, I'm not even going to hint at anything because I don't want to ruin it, but there's just some interesting stuff that happens in the show where it's like, oh, I didn't, like, I could kind of see it was going that way, but I didn't know that it was going to go exactly to that degree. It kind of reminds me of a bunch of other trippy movies or shows with, like, twists in them. Kind of like WandaVision, but, like, WandaVision is, like, a lot more lighthearted. This one kind of decided to go more the dark route, and I kind of appreciate that, but the twists in this show are really cool, and I think they're really interesting. I think that they're going to intrigue people who haven't seen it. The show has some great music, too. Mainly the music they played during the credits. I forget the name of the song, but it's catchy, and I don't know, there's some good music. I also think that the score for the show is actually pretty good. Adds some interesting vibe to what's going on. And I have this listed in last, but it's still very important, is that there is some good representation for Egyptians in the show. The show does have mostly white leads, but there is some Egyptian representation with, like, the places they go to, as well as the character of Layla is Egyptian, and so is the actress. So there's some good representation on the show, and I appreciate that. So although I do really like Moon Knight, I think it's a fun show, there are some issues that I have with it. The first one being that the finale does kind of leave you wanting more. I don't believe there's been a confirmation for season 2 yet, but I know that there's been suspicion about it, and there's been, like, I think some things that have gotten out where Marvel's talked about it, so I'm hoping we get a season 2 to this show, because I really want to see some more of what goes on with the story, because the story ends in a way that, like, is almost kind of conclusive, but also teases something new, so I feel like we really do need to see a season 2, and I want to see that. I hope they give us a second season, because this show really is a good show, and I want to see more of the story. And something else I wrote down is that the pacing can feel a bit off at times. I do really like the dark tone of the show, but there's some episodes where, like, it's slightly more fun than others because of the action or weird stuff going on. So sometimes the show can feel really slow. At other times it can kind of do a lot in a short amount of time, so it can feel rushed at times. And so the pacing can feel a bit exhausting, or a bit like this is dragging on a little bit too long. At times, it doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the show, but it can. I feel like the pacing could have been a little bit better. I also kind of wrote down that this is not the easiest show to get into, kind of like Loki. I will say, though, something that I feel like Moon Knight did better than all of the previous MCU Disney Plus shows, that the first episode gets you hooked and you want to start seeing more. And, like, it does a great job at, like, not giving you a whole lot. You kind of just want to see where it goes. And so I feel like that's probably the best. Moon Knight maybe is the best pilot of all the Disney Plus shows I've covered thus far, or at least the best crafted in terms of getting you invested, but in terms of this show not being the easiest to watch, kind of thing where it's like you really do have to be paying attention to what's going on. There's even times where I had to, like, go back and check something out because, like, wait, I'm not sure if I entirely understood that. So kind of like Loki, not the easiest show to watch. If you do pay attention, you do get really invested and entertained by what's going on. Yeah, my last fall that I have written down is that we hopefully get a season 2, because we haven't gotten confirmation for that, but I'm hoping we do. In the end, Moon Knight is a great show. There's some things about it that I felt like could have been slightly better in terms of its structure or its pacing, you know, but I do think that Moon Knight is, for the most part, a great show. It's one of the better Disney Plus shows, in my opinion. I think it's probably top 3 for me when it comes to Disney Plus MCU shows. I have Hawkeye number 1, WandaVision number 2, and I think this is probably number 3. I think the only show that maybe could compete with this is maybe Loki, and I do really like Falcon, the Winter Soldier, and What If, but those are kind of like my lesser favorites of these 6. But yeah, Moon Knight is a great show. I do recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. Just beware going into it that you're going to have to be paying attention. But yeah, at the end of the day, Moon Knight's a great show. I'm going to give it an overall rating of an 8.8 out of 10. You know, not necessarily the easiest show to get into, but it's still entertaining nonetheless, and I think it is worth checking out. And I'm going to give it an overall grade of an A-. So yeah, that was my review for Moon Knight. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Next week, I'm going to be reviewing Miss Marvel. And I'm excited to do that, because I actually have not seen Miss Marvel yet. I have not seen the show at all. Every show that I've reviewed up from WandaVision to here, I've seen this at least one time before. Everything from here on out, I actually haven't seen. I have not seen Miss Marvel. I have not seen I Am Groot. I have not seen She-Hulk, and I have not seen Werewolf by Night. I did see the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and I reviewed that back when that came out. So everything that I'm reviewing from here on out, I actually haven't seen before, and I actually am interested in checking it out. So I'm excited to talk about Miss Marvel next week, because I'm interested in seeing the show and seeing what all the fuss is about, because I had so many people telling me to watch it, so I can't wait to talk about that. I also do have a review coming out next week for Venom Let There Be Carnage, so check that when that comes out. But yeah, thank you guys so much as always for watching. Make sure that you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified when I post videos. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. And yeah, that's been it. Peace.